Hi everybody. Sorry I'm a little bit late. Hi Cara, I'm here now. Sorry I made you wait. Kim is not with me today. She had some things that she had to do, so I'm kind of winging it on my own. Welcome to everybody that decided to join us today. And today I'm going to talk to you about, and please send in questions if you have them. I'm going to be talking about change and how we handle it, and how much do we know about what the changes were, and not facing things with fear, but learning a little bit more about our situations, about our crises, and then being able to go in with a clear mind, a clear head, and understanding the whole situation. And how much power do you give away in these situations, and how much do you learn to empower yourself? So we all have crises, okay? We could have a child, a sister, a brother, a mother, a father, or whatever, on drugs, addictions. How much do we really know about addiction? A lot of us are faced with, all of a sudden we're caring for a loved one with either an illness. I know in my case, I care for my mom, and my mom, for those of you that know me, has dementia. And I had some knowledge of it, but I'm certainly getting firsthand now that she's been living with me for over 2 years now, which I am grateful for. But it's created a lot of change, and there's a lot of things I didn't know that I'm learning now. And sometimes somebody has a situation where unexpectedly they lose their job and there's no plan B or no option. How do we really deal with these things? How do we really look at these things? And how educated are we to really move through these things? So maybe the first thing, okay, so I'll go through and we'll maybe get a couple questions on how do we really tap into our power center instead of turning to fear as soon as something changes. So you have a situation where somebody you're with is dealing with an addiction. It really takes everything out of you. I know it takes everything out of you to deal with this. And the more you put into trying to be in control of a situation that you really can't control, but look at it as, what is your role in each thing? And they're all very different examples that I gave you, but we all have a role in all of these crises that come up in our lives. Now, clearly, I'm not talking about the devastation, although I do not take it lightly, and I send healing and blessings to all of the people that have lost so much in all the different islands and states and things. I'm not taking that lightly, but today I'm talking about our own personal crises that we deal with sometimes, and situations that we weren't really expecting to happen. So let's take, for instance, a situation where you have somebody that you're dealing with that may have an addiction. So you take them to rehab. You've taken them a dozen times. You've gone over everything. You've tried to head them off at the pass. You've done everything you possibly can to control the situation. And then you find out one day you're powerless over the situation, just like they may feel powerless over their addiction. So how much do you feed it, and how much do you step back and look at what's really happening in the physical, because what we're seeing, but how much of it is an unfolding to other things that are to come, futuristically speaking, and what is this leading to, and how is it preparing you for that? I know in my own situation, I'm faced with, my mom has dementia. She's on a lot of medications that I know nothing about. Some of them are duplicated. Those of you out there that are dealing with the same situations, do you know what they're taking? Do you know what your loved one is on? Whatever illness or disease they may have, how much do you really know about the medication that they're taking? How much of their behavior and experiences are due to that? How much do we think, like, let me educate myself? When you're faced with a life-changing episode, I'm sorry, you don't sit there and go, what am I supposed to do? right away we revert to fear. And the reason we do that most commonly is because that's all we've been exposed to. Oh, Aunt Florence has this disease. Oh my God, the worst case scenario. And everybody goes to the worst case scenario. We never say, what are the dynamics of this? What does this really mean? What are the options for this? What's a new way of looking at something that we don't have that fear, and we're able to actually look at something and go into our power center, which is what we most likely give away in a traumatic situation where fear is the first thing that comes up. I know with medications there's a lot of side effects. I know with addictions, people can take things that start to get them off the drugs that they're on or whatever. How much do you really know about the side effects of that stuff? How much of a situation can you really assist with without controlling it? Because once you realize that you can't control a situation, you're able to step back a little bit and go, okay, how much can I do? Without depleting your own self. That's another thing. You know, when you're brought into a situation that pulls the rug out from under you, it really catches you off guard. You're almost waking up in a situation of insanity, and you find yourself swept up in that idea and the fear, and you really don't think about it and look at it calmly. You're so afraid of all the things that can happen. You know, there are people that have been on meds because they have little or no education about their situation. And I'm going to do something really lightly here, but not that it's light, but it's a situation. People have thyroid issues, so you have to go on Synthroid because you don't know what's going to happen with your thyroid, and you have no idea whatsoever even what the thyroid does in your body. And short and sweet, it's for metabolism and it's your thermostat. Okay, it's metabolism and but how many people really know that? And I'm not talking about health today. I'm talking about how much do we really know about the situation that we're in, that we've come into unexpectedly and brought fear as our first response. And fear shouldn't be the first response. We should really learn a way to let go of that and be able to, with a fresh set of eyes, look at the situation clearly, not come from here and fear things. We need to start coming from our power center and understanding, here's what's happening, what needs to happen with the situation in order to come through it, turn it around and bring it to where the ultimate outcome is supposed to happen. How do we let go of that fear? Do you understand in any situation what you're looking at physically? You know, like how do you revamp your thoughts in order to turn a crisis situation into something that unfolds however it's supposed to? Because we all know that everything happens for a reason. It happens in the timing. God's in control, not us. And how do we really help ourselves to get through things with clarity? And I believe that educating ourselves, asking questions, we're so afraid of asking questions. We're so afraid of asking questions. We think it's wrong. We're so afraid to research things because everybody goes, don't believe everything you read on the internet. But being educated is the most important thing that we can do. And not to turn this into like a what do you do naturally kind of thing, but there are a lot of solutions when you start to go within and see how to handle what's going on out here. And if it's out here with a situation, someone's sick and they're getting a lot of side effects from meds, yes, then you want to turn to what do you need to do naturally for things? What's the safest solution here? You know, you can bring somebody to a rehab 100 times, but 100 times it hasn't helped. So now what do? Well, I have found that there are a lot of things that help with, well, addiction is fear-based. So finding out what the fears are with addiction is definitely going to help. And then finding out what naturally will help with those fears. It could be meditation. It could be yoga. It could be an hour of massage that really gets you into a quiet space. There are a lot of solutions that are natural, but we don't go to that first, and that's what we have to start understanding that we need to do. It could be in breathing and learning different breathing techniques, any of those kinds of things. But if we don't start to learn to use our power center and not our fear and adrenal mechanisms, and get away from that fight or flight when something happens, and really start to educate ourselves. I find that when people come in, the more I educate them, the more they understand what's really going on. And I think that the most important thing I find is that when somebody realizes that they have to look at the way that they're looking at something and be able to step back and look at a situation and be able to clearly look at what's going on and how it has to be approached, or how much do they have to do with it, or how much do they have to stand back. Because I find even with illnesses, and not necessarily dementia, but actually with dementia, a lot of times you hear, oh, well, they don't really know what's going on. Oh, they don't really hear you. Oh, they don't really know this. Well, you want to know what I learned with my mom? I learned with my mom that, yes, she's not always conscious at all about anything that's going on around her, and I understand that, but there are moments where she's completely saying things that are totally appropriate in that moment. Where's that coming from? Yes, they do know. They do know they're confused. It causes more confusion. But, today it's like, give them a pill. Well, I have found that playing music has really helped. When I was around her, when I was home more, I was, playing a lot of music, things like that. But I had to educate myself a little bit. And I had to get into a place where I felt comfortable with her in my home, and the caretakers that are there and the care that they give her, which I'm very grateful for. She's got a really great, team there helping us in this. But I don't know, a lot about what the meds are and what the meds do. I'm just starting to really educate myself, which is where a lot of this is coming from. And how I thought to talk about this, because I know I'm not the only one in this situation. We're just thrown into situations sometimes, and it's not just this situation. What about you lose your job, you lose an income, now what do? A lot of time we have to turn around and really ask for some of the answers spiritually. Do we know how to do that? Did we learn how to do that growing up? No, we really didn't. I know that when people come in here, that I try to work with them, asking them questions that are going to bring them to some realizations that are going to uncover some of the hidden fears and underlying experiences that they've had that have promoted the fear factor in their life. And once they realize that they're powerless over a situation out here, I think it really helps them to realize that this is the only power center that we're in control of and that we can get from. So, it's a lot of where the healing comes from. And a lot of times we have to look at the situation that we're dealing with because it's a reflection of a fear or something that we've got going. And I know Kim and I talked about this, how our outside is a reflection of our thoughts and our shadow self. But a lot of times when we're faced with these situations, it's actually forcing us to realize that we have an inner strength and we have an inner knowing and we have a place in our minds where we have a new perception to look at things if we can uncover from all the drama that we've always been, faced with. And I think that, we hear bad news and right away we're like, in Italian families, we call it the camarge, we're like, oh, you pull out the tissues, the worst case. Stop. My father used to say, stop the bleeding. Or when we were eating, he would go, geez, even a train stops. But think about these little cliches. At some point, if we want to learn how to live our lives in a place where we're not allowing others to drain us and we're able to do the things we need to do for our loved ones and not drain ourselves completely doing it, then we need to start looking at it from a power place, but not in control of the situation, but in control of how we deal with the situation. And I guess it's also, we can apply it to when we lose a loved one. It's devastating. No matter what the situation, losing a loved one is devastating. Some situations are a little more devastating than others, and losing a child, I'm going to say, has to be the most of the devastating. And a lot of us never understand or know this because it hasn't happened, and we don't know until something happens to us what it truly feels like. But we've all dealt with loss and death in some capacity. And we spend so much time going over and over and over the loss and what it was like. And instead of doing that, and I've had to learn this also, in the last year, losing aunts, a husband, one of my best friends, Diane, dealing with loss. I hate to say I've gotten pretty good at it, but not like, I don't mean to make it a positive thing, but I've gotten, it's become not so much a heaviness. I've tried to learn more about what happens after somebody leaves. And I know, and I'm convinced 100% that they're still around. So that has helped me with maybe a crisis of losing someone so close. If you ever think that your loved ones that are gone are not around anymore, they are here. And you know something, we all deal with all of these different things. We all deal with them, and that's another thing. Everybody deals with these things in a different way. And understanding that the way somebody else is carrying on, or, you know, still in their grief, it's how they only know to deal. And sometimes when we can console them, it teaches us a little something about grieving and getting past it also. So in helping somebody else, a lot of times we learn and we help ourselves. So in the unfolding of a crisis situation, if you really start to understand that our perception of it is going to be the first way of standing strong, getting our strength, and really understanding that, first of all, we are not responsible for what's going on. Always remember that you are not in control of a situation. If you're in a situation where the first thing I talked about was like a loved one on drugs, learn about the drugs, learn about the dynamics of it, learn about where they may be thinking. And I know it sounds like a lot of stuff, a lot of work you're going to do, but you know what? You can only be there for somebody. You can't force them to do anything. For somebody, but you can't force somebody. And I've had to learn that the hard way a few times. And tough love. I know everybody's, you know, when you're hearing this, you're going, you know, you don't want to get that phone call. Nobody wants to get that phone call. Nobody wants to get that phone call. But you know what? every day you can wake up and just say, you know, and understand that everything that happens every day is really God's will. And you step out, and we've said this a million times, give it up to Him. And you know, what I do really, really says that everything that we do in here, things that you practice at home, whether it's using all of the gifts from God in nature, the crystals, the herbs, meditation, the breath, the light from the universe, in any way that you can use all of these forces to start to make your decisions, and not have the old behaviors and views of what was, and going through all of these changes and things in your life with a new way of looking at everything, and stepping back and knowing when to stay in something and when to walk away. It's going to be your ticket to peace. And you know, you just have to understand that everything in our life is unfolding. Change happens, even if it's changing your understanding of something, changing the way you view something, changing the way you've always thought of something. Everybody knows the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and over and over again and expecting change. It ain't gonna happen, let me tell you. The only change that's going to take place is the change that takes place here, and the change that takes place when you look at yourself in the mirror in the morning and you decide and understand how powerful you are, and you don't want to give away your power to all of these outside influences. And I think that the strength and the wisdom that comes from that is just priceless, priceless. So instead of entering into crises with fear, like I said in the beginning, like I said today, know when to walk away and know when to run. You can always be there for somebody, but you can't be in somebody's head. You can't know what's going on for sure. You can only be there, and you have to be able to have everything. You can't give everything of yours away. You can't give yourself away, because then you're useless to anybody. If you give everything you have away, what's left, you know, for you? So I hope that this was helpful today. I love all of you very deeply. If you have any questions or comments, definitely write in. And Kim will be back with me next week. I really missed her today. And have a beautiful Wednesday.